Hey, what? Whew, boy, I was a lot younger in that picture there. So good morning. I have the privilege of being able to spend a little bit of time with you this morning and talk about who we are and what EMS is. And it struck me that one of the interesting things, by the way, greetings from Texas, just a little something we're doing over there. It strikes me that it actually just struck me that that slide came after the worm slide. That was not intentional. I just realized that little misstep. But I have a problem, and I'll tell you what my problem is. I love EMS. I don't just like it. I love it. I love the smells. I love the sirens. I love the screams. I love the guts. I love going into people's world and making it better. I love going into private places that no one else can go. I love going places with law enforcement, our colleagues. I like seeing shit that's going all over the place, right? And helping to make it better. I love that. That's sick. I love that. But if there's any solace in that, the solace is this. You love it just as much as I do. We have a problem. We love that. Am I right? We love it. We love being in other people's problems. We love bringing order to chaos. We can do it better than anyone else, and we'll tell you that, and we'll show you that. And the worse it is, the more we enjoy solving the problem, right? Your choice. Multi-vehicle car crash on the interstate, abdominal pain. Your choice, right? So we have a problem. And I'm going to argue this morning, that where EMS has come from, and don't you think for a minute there, by the way, that Bill Cosby said, oh God, I forgot about that one. It's like, oh no. So where we've come from moving the sick and injured from point A to point B, being transported into being a practice of medicine, being a part of a system, as TJ just described, being a system that takes care of patients outside of the hospital, a system that you dial 3 little numbers and we'll come solve your problem, whatever your problem is. We'll come solve your problem, because our problem is we love solving your problems. We want to see the gross stuff. We want to come in and fix your world. We want to fix the public's world. So all of my career, people have asked this, what are you? Are you public safety? Are you public health? Are you emergency medicine? Are you critical care, primary care, mobile health care? Are you the safety net? We talk about that all the time. Here, let's answer it once and for all. Yes. Yes. I don't want to argue about public safety or public health. We are all of that. We'll solve your problem, and we'll do it in the rain. We'll do it in the snow. We'll do it in the mud. We'll go into a hole and do it. We'll go into bad smells. We'll solve your problem. Wall Street Journal, 2 weeks ago, had this in the paper that said, hey, guess what? There's a revolution in EMS care. It's us. We're the problem solvers. And the Wall Street Journal said, look what they can do now. Look what's going on. Look at the technology. Look at the mission. It's so totally different. We have a problem. We love this stuff. We love fixing other people's problems. So just like hold my beer, watch this, right? Hold our stethoscope, watch this. Because EMS, the profession of EMS, our mission, our culture, what we love, has changed dramatically. And let's walk through that change. But I'm going to argue this. Our problem has become the solution. When something goes south, you can count on EMS to step up and say, you know what? I want to bring order to your chaos. I want to do it better than anyone else. And I want you to make it as hard as it can be, because I'm going to come in there, I'm going to fix it. So what does that mean? It means stuff like this. It means the largest public health crisis right now is the opiate epidemic, right? So in many of your states, I can go to Walgreens, I can pick up a little Narcan for the party over the weekend, make sure that whoever I'm taking to the party got a little Narcan just in case it gets really good, I'll wake them up, everything will be fine. They'll say, look, I've just fallen asleep, I had 2 beers. You can fight with them now, we don't have to fight with them anymore, right? So all of a sudden, we become a public health entity to say, if there's publicly accessible Narcan, we have a whole new patient population. And that's the patient that's been reversed that we now have to go manage. But you know what? We'll solve your problem. We'll do it better than anyone else and give it to us as hard as it can be, because in essence, we're going to be able to help solve the cultural change in narcotic, opiate overdose and Narcan administration in our streets. Like this, we can go into a community and we can say, here, law enforcement, here, public, here's a hot spot. Here's the heat map of where our narcotic overdoses are in this particular community. And by the way, don't go down to the Sam's Club right there where the big red spot is, unless you want to buy something, right? So we can help solve the problem. Mariana Brita da Costa, know who she is? Know who this guy is? Muppets? How about Superman? How about Patty Duke? What do all these people have in common? They have a problem that we can help solve, just like he had a problem that we could help solve. What's the problem? They all died of sepsis. They all died of a time-dependent illness that we can make an impact in. Because now the public is starting to look, saying, hey, look, this isn't something that we need to respond to on a calendar. This is a second hand, a minute hand. This is a time-dependent problem. So we can get in there in something that has a higher mortality than STEMI, stroke, or trauma. We can get in there and start to change morbidity and mortality from sepsis. And the data tells us that we can make a difference in that we can help with initiation of fluids, with activation of the hospital in that patient population. And this little problem, it's here to stay. I wish it weren't, but it's here to stay. I had a discussion with two nurses in the airport in New Orleans yesterday, and we were talking about, they're from Seattle, and we had the discussion that said, you know, how odd is this? Almost everybody in the airport probably knows how to do compressions. A big chunk of them will know how to use a defibrillator. Maybe 10% would know how to use a tourniquet. But this stuff's on the news all the time. So we have a problem, and we're going to solve it better than anybody else, and we're going to do it when it gets toughest. So we're going to learn from all of these things. We're going to learn from the Colorado Springs shooting in Planned Parenthood. We're going to learn from San Bernardino. We're going to learn from all that, and we're going to be better. And we're going to do things, as all this evolves, we're going to do things like help the public understand there are very simple solutions to what they perceive as a complex problem. And we'll tell them it's not. This is what you need to learn. This is how you learn it. This is a difference you can make. And hey, by the way, stop the bleed. And it's pretty simple to stop the bleed. And hey, by the way, we're going to help solve this problem because we're going to help put wound control kits, we're going to put hemorrhage control kits, public access tourniquets, public access hemorrhage control out into the public. Anybody from Charlotte, North Carolina? Charlotte, North Carolina, this is your airport. I saw this and it's like, woohoo! Solve your problem. Because in that airport, not only do they have a defibrillator, but right below it they said, you know what? If we got a nut job in the airport, which by the way, there are plenty of nut jobs in airports. If we got a nut job, I mean, Scott travels a lot. So if we've got a nut job in an airport and there's a problem, public, we're going to teach you how to manage that. We're going to teach you how to save lives, and we're going to make it available to you. We're going to learn from our colleagues in the military. We're going to take the principles of the battlefield and we're going to apply them in a civilian setting. And we're going to do it in a way, because remember, we want to bring order to chaos. We want to do it better than anyone else. And we want to do it when it's the toughest. So we're going to be able to translate that to our communities so our communities feel better and feel safer. We're going to learn from them that maybe a freeze-dried lyophilized plasma could sit on a shelf in an ambulance and be available and be reconstituted to help expand volume in rural areas or in long-distance transports. You heard a lot this morning about the changes in technology. I haven't talked to my children, my kids, they're teenagers. I haven't talked to them for 2.5 years. They'll only text me. Not going to talk to you, Dad. I'll send you a nice text at Christmas. Okay, fine. Love you too. Smiley face. So text 911. My kids wouldn't know how to call 911. How the hell do you do that? I don't know. Text them. So the technology that allows us to do things different, the idea that hospitals want their patients, oh my word, to be treated at home. Could you have surgery and go home from the hospital and the operating room and go home and be recovered there. And teletechnology essentially transmits your vitals, all the information, so that a different level of care provider, hey, by the way, maybe that's us, goes into that home and takes care of a patient recovering from surgery in concert with the hospital. Look at the Hospital at Home initiative. Look at the ability to telecommunicate with physicians, clinicians, PAs, all over the place. I mean, Dr. Maida was kind enough to give everyone in the world his cell phone number. Thank you for that, by the way. Big hand for, any problem at all. So we can communicate better, as you heard in the previous discussion. There's gross stuff that we can catch. It's like, are you kidding me? How do you spell Ebola? What was that? When that came out, it's like, go to the main medical reference, Google, and figure out what Ebola was. That's what I had to do. There are other diseases coming. 4 days ago, I don't know if you've been following the evolving news on Zika. So the microcephaly in pregnant patients who are infected with the Zika virus is devastating. So now there's an indication that it's not just microcephaly, it's not the deformity, it's not that particular structural defect, it may be seizure disorders, visual disturbances, learning disorders. So all of a sudden, all these mosquito-based illnesses become very, very tough to sort through. And could you imagine EMS being in the public health mode and helping to spread the information about, come on, use of mosquito repellent? You bet we could. We can solve problems. We can take care of the highly infectious even when we don't understand it, and we love doing it. Like my colleague that transported that patient, and a year later, he shows me his tattoo. We love getting into other people's problems. We love solving them, and we like doing them in a way that no one else can. By the way, I asked him, I said, you single or married? He said, single. I said, listen, if you're handing someone a glass of wine, you might want to use your other hand. It's like, hi, I'm having a nice night, and whoa, gotta go, whoa, out of here. So, you heard about CT ambulances. So, could it be that this technology, or as it evolves, as we've talked about, maybe that becomes a rural assessment? You know what, maybe, just maybe, if we want to solve folks' problems, could you imagine the same kind of technology in a remote area that looks at traumatic brain injury or head trauma and helps us decide where that patient population goes? Looking at things like EMS hospice, could you imagine responding 911 so a patient wasn't going to be resuscitated? Because patients wish, they've planned everything out, and we would go to say, we're going to be there so resuscitation doesn't occur, and your wishes will be honored, that you can die comfortably. Could you imagine that? Exactly right. EMS at the healthcare table. You know what? 4 years ago, we started talking about this mobile integrated healthcare thing. What the heck is that? So last week, an article gets published that says, hey, guess what? A large population of patients that's being managed in a combined manner with physicians, nurses, paramedics in a mobile integrated health environment. Guess what? It actually does financially and clinically make a difference. We love solving people's problems. We love doing it when it's hard, and we can do it better than anyone else. Like concussion. So I'm watching the UT game the other day. Well, bad game, by the way. Watching the UT game, and I hear in the back the announcer saying, looks like they're undergoing the concussion protocol. It's like, warms my heart. Not that someone got a concussion, but the fact that there's an organized approach to looking at something that we've really underestimated. The fact that, there are going to be little LEDs that are going to be on the back of helmets. I don't know if anyone's seen any of this technology yet. There'll be a time that we're going to be called, in many of your communities you may get called, to say, hey, listen, Bob Johnson, he's a high school football player, his LED's red. Oh, good for him. What the hell does that mean? So, impact on the helmet that says, if I've got a green light and I'm playing lacrosse or I'm playing football or I'm doing it, I'm green light, I'm good to go. But if a parent looks at my kid and says, hey, Harrison's got a red light, out he comes into the concussion protocol. Why? Because we can take care of those patients better and faster. The idea that a helmet will know how hard a patient's hit, so we'll know how great the potential is that that patient has a concussion. The idea that a mouthpiece, and by the way, these are all in existence today, the idea that a mouthpiece could give us data on movement of the head, movement of the neck in space. Do you like how I did that, by the way? Movement of the head. I'm feeling sick. I think I might be throwing up here. So the idea that a mouthpiece could give us data, instead of saying, well, did anybody see him get hit? Hang on. Let me interrogate the mouthpiece. Let's look at the data. Oh, hang on. You know what? Needs to be transported and evaluated. The idea that we could respond to a motorcycle crash and the frickin' helmet is the airbag, right? So if you're like me, I'd respond to that and go, oh, this is bad, right? Oh, that's bad. What is that? The idea that our patients, and by the way, these are real, that our patients are being protected in a different way. The idea that the suits that they wear become the airbags on the motorcycle or on the bicycle, so that if I have a nasty event, essentially it deploys. Because if you're like me, we're going to this saying, look, this guy's got the worst sub-Q emphysema I've ever seen. This guy, regardless, he's not going to have a spinal injury, but he's going to have 2 needles in his chest. So we got some work to do, right, as we move forward. But we love to solve problems. And we love to work with our colleagues in industry to say, if we're doing this, we've got to be prepared. We've got to work together, as was brought up, to figure out what the new world looks like. This is some of the data that you can get out of helmets, some of the data you can get out of mouthpieces, some of the data, as was talked about earlier, the data you can get out of OnStar with a car crash, the data. We have data that's available to us all over the place. The idea that that data would be able to say, high likelihood this patient's going to the OR, launch an aircraft. Does that sound odd? Not at all. It's our new world. It's how things are evolving. So we do have a drone. We have a drone. This drone delivers drugs. It has a defibrillator on board. It has the ability to deliver TXA. It's got 2-way video communications. Actually, I made that up. I just wanted to put it in there because it sounded kind of cool, but you know what? I agree. Drones are a future for emergency medical services. They're already being used in law enforcement. They're being used in fire suppression. They're great surveillance tools. There's already a whole approach to e-commerce, to aerocommerce, to being able to deliver Amazon. Why couldn't it deliver drugs? Why couldn't this get to a patient in the middle of the Boston Marathon? Or why couldn't it get to a hiker? Why couldn't it get out to the ski resort faster and be the first responder that walks through what that patient needs and what that patient requires for his or her morbidity or mortality? So this was 3 hours ago this morning when I woke up. When this happens, and it's ironic that we're sitting here in New Orleans, I remember that day distinctly here. And many of you are in this room, and you remember that. And you remember as things were kind of gearing up. And here's our dirty little secret. Here's your problem. Here's my problem. As gross and as hard as all that stuff is, all that stuff was, as gross as Matthew hopefully won't, but may become, and by the way, I don't know if you saw, but it took a little turn this morning, which is good. As bad as this could potentially be, every single one of us sitting in this room has a little spot in our brain that says, but that would be cool to respond to that. Am I right or wrong? Absolutely right. So our problem, we don't ever wish those disasters on anyone. We don't ever wish catastrophic events. We don't ever wish bad stuff. We don't wish amputations, car crashes, but we do have this wish. If it's going to happen, let me be there. Let me be a part of helping to fix that problem. That's our problem that's become the solution for the rest of the world. We love it. We cherish being able to work in that environment. We want to make chaos better. We can do it better than anyone else can, and the harder it is, the better it is for us. So we have a problem, and our problem has become the solution for all the other stuff that's evolving out there. So with that, Hold my stethoscope. Hold my stethoscope and watch this. Hold your stethoscope. Watch this. It is a fabulous time to be in emergency medical services. It is a wonderful time to be a part of a conference like this, to learn about what's going on, to stock up on tools and stories and all the spirits downtown. And thanks for what you do and how you do it. And thanks for the privilege of talking to you this morning very much.